Recently I've had a few people ask about creating spot color work in Photoshop, and if you do it the correct way, it's actually not that difficult, but you have to be prepared for the fact that you're going to create a multi-layer document to help you, but ultimately you'll be working with a flat document. So basically this is what I've done. Just to start off, I've created a document in grayscale mode, and as you can see I have a type layer, I have a shape layer that I rasterized here, and I have a path that I'm going to use. And in the channels palette, whatever is visible, you start to see what's showing. But here's what I want to do. I want to make this print in two colors, not just black and white. So I would do that by adding, let me move this over here, a new spot channel. And this is where we're going to choose our color. So let's just use Pantone yellow because it's right there. The solidity is referring to if you were doing things like a varnish that would simulate it on screen. But for now we're just going to worry about these two colors. So basically what we're now going to do is in effect manually separate this. So whatever we want to print in black will be on this channel. Whatever we want to print in our Pantone color will be on this channel. And if there's any combinations, like maybe we want some areas to be a little bit of both, as an example. So let's get started, shall we? So basically these layers are here to help me, but let's actually go first of all and turn off our path, layers, and also our shape, so we can start off working with this type. Now at the moment, as you saw on the channels palette, it looks like that's on there, but what you really have to do is once you're sure the type is set the way you want, hold down the Command key on the Mac, Control on Windows, click on the type layer, and then hide it. So all you have is a selection. Go back to your background because that's where all this is going to happen, and here's what we do. We want this to be yellow. So we go to our Pantone yellow channel, we fill it with black, which is like saying 100% ink of that yellow. Now of course initially we're not going to see anything because it's also got black. So what we have to do then is click on the black channel and fill it with white to knock out or remove it. And you'll see now we have yellow ink printing in that knockout. So if we look at the two channels so far, this is the black channel. It's black with a knocked out area waiting for our yellow ink. This is what the yellow plate, if you want to call it a plate, looks like. So basically that's the procedure we have to go through. If we go back to the layers palette, go back to our shape and do kind of the same thing. Command or Control click to load as a selection, hide it, and then go back to our channels palette. Now maybe in this case we want it to be in yellow. If I want part of the black on here, or at least some black ink, then there's a number of ways of doing it. One simple way would be to use the fill command and choose 50% gray, which means it's going to have a little bit of black and a little bit of white. Okay? Now look what's happened. Because of the order in which I did things, I've kind of covered this up. So very simple to fix, I'd have to go back here, load this as a selection once more, come back to the channel and fill that with 100% black to get it the way that I wanted. Now it's still on the black channel, so let's go back one more time. And honestly guys, this is a reality of when you first start doing this, is doing some back and forth work where you realize that you have to do this kind of back and forth to get it to look the way that you want. And let's see what we could do with our path. Here's our path. Well, of course there's lots of options with paths, not the least of which would be to stroke the path. So for example, let's get our paintbrush, let's get a small soft edge brush and go back to the paths palette. So I'm going to put this on a new layer first. Go back to the paths palette, use stroke path. Now I didn't even intend for this to happen, but it had some nifty kind of setting so that the shape is changing, but that's okay. We did put it on a separate layer. It looks kind of cool. So once again, same idea. Load it as a selection, hide it. We can even at this point decide, you know what, we don't really want it there. We want it, we just have to get our, have to click on the right layer though, Dave. Put this over here, and let's put it right maybe there. Go back to the channels palette, same idea. Now in this case maybe I want just a little bit of yellow, so we're going to do the same thing we did before, fill using 50% gray. And of course I'm using 50% gray. It can be any percentage of gray that you want. And then go back here and do the same thing. So it'll be a very much more subtle kind of thing happening. And again, I didn't plan this out very carefully in terms of the order, because now I'd have to go back and fix the same thing I did with the type before. But basically get the idea that you're just building it up. So here's what's going to happen. Your layers are only there to help you build the bits and pieces you need, but all the work actually gets done by either making selections and filling, or if it's something like a photograph, like a person, actually pasting the photo onto the channel itself. And we'll look at that in part 2. Well, of course, at this point, you're expecting and waiting for me, I imagine, to do something kind of clever, silly, stupid, unusual. Well, guess what? I'm not going to. That's going to be the silly part this time. So that's it. I'm Dave Pross. I'll see you next time when I promise I'll try to get a slightly better ending for you. See ya.